Hello, I'm George Cairns, and I'll be guiding you through Teach Yourself Photoshop, a complete course to help you master the art of image editing. In Lesson 5 of your course, I'll be demonstrating some creative effects. We'll kick off in Part 1 by looking at ways to add summer lighting effects to your portraits by changing colour and tone, and we'll end up taking our start image and brightening it up, adding a warmer feel to it, and also improving the contrast, revealing details in the eyes, and doing lots of little tweaks to improve the shot's lighting to make it feel like it was taken in the summer instead of in an overcast day like this one here. So let's kick off by opening Part 1 before, and I'm going to use Photoshop Elements 9, but you could do this in any other version of Photoshop Elements, and of course in Photoshop CS as well. Now the key to creating our summer lighting effects is to use the Layers palette, and we'll do that by going to Window and choosing Layers just to make sure that's visible, and we'll drag that onto the screen like so. Now the first thing I tend to do with any image is to just duplicate the background copy by dragging it to the Create New Layer icon, and that means we've got the original image in case we need to go back to it for any details, any textures or tones, etc. So there's our copy. We're now ready to try and brighten up these midtones just to improve the contrast of this fairly flat area here, and to do that I'm going to use color curves. So pop up to Enhance, go to Adjust Color, pop down to Adjust Color Curves, and that has got a very handy preset section here where you can choose a style, and we're going to increase the mid-tone contrast by clicking here. And already we've got an improved looking shot. We've got our before and our after there, and you can see it's brightened up the mid-tone contrast, and we're seeing a little bit more detail in the face. And that's working by pushing up the curve, creating a gentle bulge in the curve there. We're brightening up the mid-tones by pushing this middle bit up into the top there, but you're also brightening some of the darker shadows and some of the brighter highlights as well. So we need to tweak the overall contrast after we've tweaked these midtones. But let's just click OK to get started, and there's our first edit. Now the cool thing about editing onto a copy of the original layer is you can turn that off by clicking on the eye to see the before version, turn it on again to see the after. So it's a subtle edit, but we can improve the tones even more by using an adjustment layer. To do that, let's pop down here, click and choose Levels, and up pops the Levels Adjustments palette. Let's just drag that out for the moment, and if we scale that down, we can then drag this to the bottom and dock it to the bottom of the Layers palette so they're floating around together. That's just quite a nice Photoshop Elements touch. And the cool thing about a Levels Adjustment layer is we can target the shadows and make them darker and brighten up the highlights to create a wider tonal range, as if we were on a summer day with more high contrasting shadows because of the bright sunshine. So to darken those shadows, grab the Blacks input level slider, drag it to the right, and you can see the darker shadows are becoming even more dark. If we go to around about 26 or so, will give us a nice high contrast effect. We've got very black shadows there now. And if we turn this on and off, you can see there's the before, there's the after, and our blacks are much, much blacker. We can now brighten up those highlights by going to the Highlight Input Level slider, and we're remapping the brightest highlights, making them even brighter by dragging this to the left. Around about 226 or so will give us some much more high contrasting highlights compared to our black shadows. Turn that on and off just to compare, and you can see that's fairly flat even with the mid-tone adjustment, but now we've got a much more striking high contrast summer scene. Now if we look at the midtones here on the cheek, there is a little bit of a hint of blue there. It's not very summery, is it? So we need to warm things up a little bit for a more summery feel, and to do that I'm going to use another adjustments layer. Click here, and this time we're going to go to Photo Filter. You could pop a filter over the lens to warm up or cool down the shot, but here we can actually choose a whole variety of different types. And if I just drag this up a little bit, you should see at the bottom there we've got one called Deep Yellow, and that just adds a little bit more of a warm tint to the shot to kind of mimic some of the colours in the background there. It's quite subtle. Let me turn that off, turn it on again, and round about here especially where we had that slightly cool tint, you'll notice that we've warmed things up using the Photo Filter adjustment layer. So we've tweaked the colours and the tones to create a more summer lighting effect, but we're losing detail in the eyes, so what we're going to do is brighten these up using a selective adjustment. And I'm going to use another Levels adjustment layer to brighten up the eyes. So go to Levels again. That's the cool thing about adjustment layers, you can have as many as you like. And here we're going to actually brighten up the eyes by brightening the midtones. If I just drag this slider here to the left, and ignore the fact that you're getting a really blown out shot overall, I'm just interested in the eyes. So around about 1.92 is giving me eye detail, but it's also blowing out the rest of the image's highlights. So click on the adjustment layer's mask, Control and I We'll invert that and turn it black, and we can now go and paint in a white brush stroke on the mask just to reveal these details here by changing these eyes and leaving the rest of the layer untouched. Now my tools palette and my options bar were hidden because I'd hit the tab key, which is a good keyboard shortcut, but I'm going to hit tab again to bring back these details. I'm just going to hide the panel bin because I don't need that, and here we have a shot ready to be edited. Okay, let's grab the brush tool. Let's choose a white foreground color just by clicking until we've got white up here, and let's choose a nice soft edge brush of around about 35 or so. Actually, we can go up to something like 100. That's about the right size for the eyes. Okay, click on the mask, make sure you've got a white foreground color as I said earlier, and then just click and spray over the eyes, and that will reveal the brighter adjusted part from this adjustment layer that we created here. But the black part of the mask is protecting the rest of the layer's tones from being adjusted, and that's a great way to lighten up those eyes. Let me just turn this levels adjustment layer off. There's the before, turn it on again, and the eyes have it. Now the great thing about adjustment layers is they're non-destructive. You can turn them all off and see the original shot, so you can see the dramatic improvement you've made. You can also go to them and tweak the initial adjustments that you made earlier. So if I click on levels 1, we can lighten up some of these midtones just to brighten them a little bit by dragging this to around about 1.19 or so. It's quite a subtle adjustment, 1.20, and that just brightens up the overall mid-tone contrast a little bit and just lightens up the main parts of the face, which were fairly mid-tony to start with, and that's a finishing touch there. So you can tweak this levels 1 adjustment layer with ease and fine-tune your summer lighting effects. And let's finish off by zooming in with the zoom tool and flattering our model just by removing some of these frown lines or laugh lines in the forehead here. To do that, I'm going to use this tool here, which is the spot healing brush tool. If I set it to proximity match should do the trick. Content aware in Elements 9 is very powerful, but it takes longer to work. And I think given there's lots of skin surrounding these creases or lines, it should work quite nicely. Left square bracket helps me shrink it down to around about 45 pixels in size. And then if I just click and spray, make sure of course that you're actually on the correct layer. I'm trying to do it on the adjustment layer, but I need to be on background copy. So I click to select that and now spray over this line here. That should get rid of it fairly effectively without putting any eyebrows in there, which you might find happens on occasion. Let's just do this one as well. Okay, yep, that's working okay. Let's get the space bar just to get the hand tool and just move over here again with the spot healing brush just to help smooth out this line. And you can see that that's fairly straightforward. I won't do every line in real time because you've got all the techniques you need now to get rid of these creases. There we go. So we've made some selective adjustments on various tones and various areas, as well as healing out some wrinkles. And that's how you add summer lighting effects to your portraits. In part 2 of our creative effects video lesson, we're going to have a look at solarizing a still life to create a very distinctive and dramatic looking shot. So see you in part 2.